All right, sports fans, hello, welcome to the challenge. Hope you are all well. Um, it was a really great week last week. I thought for those of you sticking with the challenge, I thought your efforts on pains, gains, and jobs to be done has really been impressive. Well done for all of that. And I was particularly excited by this whole concept of the 25 minutes, right? And the fact that you found that 25 minutes go through consistently. And I was really excited about that. The reason I was that I want you to be in a position where you're really excited to do more. If I can get you in the habit of doing 25 minutes, and then we'll gradually, I want you to increase that from 25 minutes to 50 minutes and do all of those sorts of things. By doing that, you get into a great habit. You build this great habit of a time where you want to build your business. It's a bit like if you've ever been caught by the jogging bug. The first couple of times you do it, a bit rough, but if you get to a point where you actually really miss it, if you don't do a walk or you don't do any of those sorts of things, you really miss it. I just looked over, Larry's just here, and I used the W word. So I've got to be a little bit careful. So I'm very excited that you're doing that and getting used to using a timer, particularly when it comes to this research phase of what we're doing, is so important. We've picked a market and we're practicing with a market, and we picked a fun one so that we're not stressing that this is going to be the be all and end all. I really want you to just focus on learning the processes. And by choosing a fun market and by choosing something that is, interesting to you, then that is going to be a really big deal for being able to get you to build momentum, okay, and get you building momentum as we go forward through all of this process. All right, so don't forget, and this week using a timer is going to be super important as well as we go through this process. All right, so Grave Belly, thank you. $1 already. The Subway fund started in earnest. Yeah, everywhere. Thank you very much. You're my favorite. That is marvelous. And while we're looking at contributions and things, please make sure you hit the like button. Somebody's already given me a thumbs down. So geez, I'm sorry that I disappointed you this early on. But if you could make sure you subscribe to the channel and the bell so that you get all of that together. Okay, let's see where we are at. So in the past week, what I got you to do was I got you to research your markets, and I really wanted you to have a look at three particular things. So we had our pains, we had our gains, and we had our jobs to be done. Okay, so basically you've all got, you did actually really, really well. I was expecting only, 4 or 5 different, different things going on in your particular marketplace with pains, gains, and jobs to be done. But most of you got a lot, which is just fantastic. I'm really, really pleased by that. So the first thing that we're going to do, and we're going to get right into it, is we're going to sort each of these categories. Right. And we're literally going to be sorting from what we think our biggest pain is to our most minor pain is. Okay, so when we look at your the pains that you've collected, now if you've done it in 3x5 cards, this is where I like the 3x5 cards, because you can sort of lay them out a bit and you can research it. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to, in fact, let's do it live. Let's do it now, right? Let's do this, because I really don't want you to think too heavily about this. Is because this is a little danger area, particularly for high fact finders, for people to get stuck on this, where this is just for practice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and I'm going to time you for 2 minutes to put in each of the so I want you to sort the pains from biggest to minor, just using your own. What criteria do I use? Just based on the fact that you spent last week researching your market, just based on your understanding, I want you to think about what the pains, gains, and jobs to be done are. And if there are two that are roughly the same, well, just use a gut feel, toss a coin if you have to. And what I'm going to do to facilitate this is I'm going to give you 2 minutes to sort your market. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So if you're watching this long live, feel free to go and do this right now. If you're watching the replay, I'd love you to make sure that you do this in real time. Okay, so we do this. All right, so does that make, Debbie, thank you so much. Wow. I'm going to go all out. I might get the foot long today, which is brilliant. Thank you very much. You're now my favorite, Debbie. But Grave Belly, you're definitely a favorite there too. So here's what we're going to do. All right, we are going to do that sort. So just let us know in the chat. Are you ready to sort your pains? Just give us a yep in the chat and see how. I'll just make sure you're ready to go, and then we will get started. Excellent. Oh, look at you. Well done. On fire today. Fantastic. All right. Well, let's do this thing. Okay. So I'm going to set a timer for 2 minutes. You've got 2 minutes to sort your pains. We're going to do pains first. Okay. The talking horse having trouble getting this to come up. All right. There you go. Gave you a minute. Well, I didn't really, but that's all right. You can do it after if you need to. All right, here we go. Set a timer for 2 minutes. Okay, we're away. So we're just sorting out in the way, like I say, with my 3x5s, the great thing about 3x5s is I go, okay, there's that. And then there's this one. That one is not as important as that. So I'll put that there. And then I can just ask myself, is that more or less important? Okay. Is that a bigger pain or a lesser pain? Okay. Cool, I'm done. You have 1 minute and 13 seconds left. Okay, 1 minute. Good on your cat. You can let us know in the chat when you're done. Just gut feel. Just get them in some kind of order. Ten more seconds. All right, pens down. Pens down. Whatever order you've got it in, that's good enough. All right. And there's actually a bunch of science behind this as well. When you're doing a sort, your brain has actually, over the course of the past week, well, in reality, the past 3 weeks, your brain has actually absorbed an enormous amount about this fun market that we've picked for practice. And it's all in there, right? You may not be able to verbalize it. You may not be able to, in fact, a big part of the processing is in an area where you can't verbalize in your brain. You literally can't express what you know. You have no idea what you don't know. You do know it, but there's no way of accessing it. And indeed, these are, these timed exercises are designed in accessing that part of the brain. You talk about the great Nobel Prize winning work of the fast and slow part of your brain, the instantaneous gut feel and then the slow, more methodical. And there are times for utilizing both of those. All of that stuff, which is, a huge amount of neuroscience, gets encapsulated in these little 2-minute periods, and we're taking advantage of that. So don't underestimate what you can actually do and decide in 2 minutes, right? It's really, really powerful. Great. And it's okay, Byron. You don't have to be neat. I'm certainly not neat. Well, hey, look at my artwork. I mean, but I'm gifted in that regard. So what can you do? Okay, cool. So what I want you to do is just circle or just keep in mind your number one, your biggest pain. Okay, I want you to keep that and have that acknowledged. Then what I want you to do is grab, and I'm just sorting mine as I go. I want you to now grab your gains. Okay, so grab your, oh God, itchy nose. Grab your gains, and guess what we're going to do? Yes, you're absolutely right. We are going to sort our gains. And this, when we want to sort our gains, is, the most awesome game, because it's sort of a positive thing, to, vaguely cool. Vaguely, can't spell vaguely. Why do I use words that I can't spell? Vaguely cool. All right, so in your market, what's the holy grail? The gain here. This is the holy grail. And that may be a very grandiose word for your market, but that does, each market has their holy grail. And what's that'll be nice. That'd be a cool thing, may not cross the road to get it, but, it'd be nice to do. I want you to rank them in that sort of order. So we've got, from awesome to vaguely cool. All right. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes and let me know in the chat when you're done. That'll be good. And I love the fact that in the replays, people can see the chat as well. So you're being super helpful for people as well. So thank you very much for those of you who are doing this live. All right. So here we go. I'm going to set a timer. Set a timer for 2 minutes. All right, we're off. Sort your gains now from most awesome, holy grail gain, the thing that people most want, down to the vaguely, that's okay. Still a gain, but it's just, it's average. It's okay. It's cool. Got 50 seconds. Oh, and while you're doing that, I've just got to answer the door. Keep going. Time's up. Pens down. Pens down. Time's up. Woo. How'd you go? Woo. Sorry, that was Mr. FedEx. I was waiting for that. All right. Excellent. Fantastic. And there's no need to question whether you've done this right or wrong. You're just doing an ordering exercise. There's no questions that you need to worry about. All right. Guess what we're going to do now? As I try to recover from running up and down the stairs. We've only just got Amazon in Australia, believe it or not, just last year. So, no, this is from the United States. Okay, so now we're going to do jobs to be done. And we're going to sort that from, typically it's things that people want to know how to do. So from the most important to, oh, I'd like to know that, but, sort of meh, how to do. Right, so what's the biggest, most important how to do? To the least most important how to do. So if you can do that, that would be super duper awesome. So I will give you 2 minutes, believe it or not. I know, he's shocked, right? 2 minutes to do that. Here we go. Set a timer for 2 minutes. So sorting our jobs to be done. And let us know when you're finished. Well done, Kat. Okay, 40 seconds. Yes, much easier if you've got Post-it notes or 3x5 cards. All right, pens down. That's your 2 minutes. Fantastico. Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to take, remember we took our number one pane. So I want you to just know what that is. I want you to also grab your number one gain. I want you to know what that is. And I want you to get your number one jobs to be done. So we've got our number one pane. Let's do a different color. So we've got our number one pane, our number one gain, and our number one job to be done. Now, what's interesting, let's just before we move on to the next step, I just want you to have a look at what you've got there. Have a look at all those panes, have a look at all those gains, and have a look at all those jobs to be done. Now, for our practice market, what have you got there? Right? Is anybody in the chat? What have you got there? Like, think about what you have as value from the research. And we only did, when you look at it, we did what? Three, maybe you did 4 25-minute research sessions. What do you have there? You've got buckets. That's definitely one of the things, Gary. You're absolutely right. You have different areas. Recipes for researching a solution is another thing you've got. You've got a snapshot of the market. Absolutely, Byron. That's a good one. There's something else that you've got as well. That you can see the relations, which is another good one, Betty. But think about each of those, every single one of those. Think about how many content pieces that could create for you. Have a think about how many emails that you could use as topics, right? They're all, each one of those things in its own self is either an individual topic, or it could spring 20, 30 topics in terms of all of the things that you've got there. So you've got an extraordinary amount of research there. A product in the making, absolutely. A Sage document, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later, not this week, but you've got interview questions for an expert. Very good, Nancy, right? Look at all of this stuff that you've got for this market, a potential funnels for a market. Absolutely right, Darren. Look at all of these things that you've now got, which before last week, you didn't have anything in your fun practice market. And that is particularly exciting. And by doing these little steps, the idea is we're going slow. In the academy, we talk a lot about going slow to go fast. For a lot of you, this is as far as you've ever got in creating a business, right? Because we've chunked it down into tiny little bits and pieces. And now we've taken our number one pain, our number one gain, and our number one job to be done, just based on nothing more than the fast thinking. Daniel Kahneman is the guy I was trying to think of. Daniel Kahneman, in his Nobel Prize winning effort in terms of research into fast and slow thinking, the fast thinking of the number one, you could go and spend 2 weeks, and some of you have. You spent weeks or months thinking, oh, what's the number one pain in my market? The number two gain, what was that? The reality is, for this type of exercise, restricting yourself and making a choice in 2 minutes is as powerful, and by the way, probably more successful. You bring more processing power that you don't actually have conscious access to when you're making these types of decisions. And that's what I want you to get a feel for and get used to. Trust the fact that your brain, while you're researching, your brain's absorbing way more than just what you're writing on your 3x5 card. And that is an exciting part of this process as well. So you've got all of these benefits, right, as well. So next, what do we have to do next? So let me consult my notes, because I want to make sure we get this right. So we've picked our top pain, our top gain, and our top job to be done. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to focus on your top number one pain. Okay, so let's get a new page going here. So I want you to have and I want to choose a different color. There we go. So for the rest of this week, we're going to be focusing in on the number one pain. And those of you who are observant, notice that the hashtag, our title for this week, is Solve for X. Okay, so we want to be able to come up with solutions for the number one pain in our fun practice market. And you're going, but hang on a sec, Ed, I'm not an expert. I have no idea. I don't know how to solve this particular problem. I don't know how to do all of this. I'm not an expert. I've just, you told me to choose a fun market. How can I choose this solution? I'm saying, whoa, hold your horses, slow down. Okay. Just let's take a deep breath. I didn't ask you to do any of those things, right? All I want you to do is figure out, well, what solutions are out there. Okay. So for the rest of the week, what we're going to be doing is all of the sessions that we're going to be doing through the week are designed to get you to the point where you know at least 3 different solutions. And by the way, when I say know of, you're aware of 3 different solutions, right? 3 different solutions to your number one pain. Okay, so we've got 3 different solutions. Why 3 solutions, Ed? Why am I looking for 3? Because in a lot of markets, by the way, there'll be a super obvious solution, right? The number one go-to solution. But here's the deal, and this is what I want you to learn and I want you to understand, because the power of this and the ramifications this have are far-reaching, okay? Because in every market, there's probably a super obvious solution to a particular pain point. But, and I guarantee this, I absolutely guarantee it, for every super obvious solution, there is at least a couple of other, you might call them radical solutions. You might call it underground solutions. You might call it alternative solutions. I don't care. There is an obvious way to do things and obvious ways to solve these products. Gary says, you mean products or books, etc. I haven't talked about products or books or anything. All I'm saying is that we've identified your number one pain in your market. Now, over the course of this week, we are going to be identifying 3 different solutions to this particular problem. And I'm first going to explain how you're going to do that. And then I'm going to explain, as I always promised I always do, why we do that. So first of all, let's do the how we're going to do this. So bonus, for those of you who are live, you've already done day 1. Congratulations. For those of you doing this after the fact, well, this is day 1's content. In day 2, you are going to spend 25 minutes researching obvious solutions. And for that, some of you, you may already be able to say, I know what the solution is already, right? Because in your research, you've already come up with solutions for it, right? They are probably obvious solutions. So I want to spend 25 minutes, and the obvious, dare I say it, places, well, the obvious place is to Google solution to X, X being your number one pain, right? And see what comes up, right? And have a look. That's the obvious way to do it. The next place I want you to have a look at is I also want you to have a look at YouTube results. And again, there's a really good reason for this. So I also want you to do the same solution. And you can play around with the wording. I'm not wedded to this particular wording, to X, X, X. right? Look for the obvious solutions. And if you've got ideas for where to research this sort of stuff, please contribute into our Facebook group. And if you're not a member of the Facebook group, please look up All New Challenge on Facebook and apply to join. We want you there because the feedback that we get off the daily exercises is gold. It's pure gold and so helpful. And thank you for everybody doing all of these, contributing into the Facebook group with how you found each of the exercises, because it really does help. It's really, super, super, super valuable stuff. So thank you very much. So day 2, we're going to look at 25-minute obvious solutions, and we're going to look at YouTube results. I would like you to capture links to which strike you as good content to any of these solutions. Right now, people use different tools to do this. Right, this is a short-term thing, so using digital stuff probably makes a lot of sense. I personally use an app called Drafts to do this. In fact, note to self, I will do you a little video showing you how I do this using an app called Drafts, and that's an iOS app. But you can do also, there's also an app called, which is cross-platform, which is called Pocket, which is also very good for collecting. But Ed, I thought you said most entrepreneurs never look at this stuff. I absolutely concur with that. Once you've used it this week, you'll never look at it again. But it is useful to keep this stuff digitally, as you will see later on in the week. So for our day 2, 25 minutes, we're looking at obvious solutions. We're looking for solutions to X through Google, and YouTube results, solutions to X for that. Okay, cool. Then on day 3, can you guess what we're going to do? We're going to do exactly the same thing, 25 minutes, looking in exactly the same place, Google and YouTube, but guess what we're going to do? Siri. Siri's not so good to ask. Not for these sorts of things. Google's not bad, but Siri, not so good for this sort of stuff. Okay, we are going to be looking for the unconventional solutions. What sort of search terms? Let's do a fun little exercise here for those people who are live. Just in the chat box, what sort of search phrases would you use to look for unconventional solutions to your number 1 pain point? What sort of phrases would you look? Yes, talking horse, going underground. That's exactly what we're doing. Unconventional solutions to X. We'll use the search phrase alternative. That's a good one. Secret. Often a secret that will tend to get you perhaps maybe more marketing orientated, but which is fine. Definitely work. Unconventional solutions. Alternative. What are the phrases? Unique solution. Unusual. Love that. Unusual solution to your number 1 prey. I can't spell. Doesn't matter. Unusual solution. Hacks. Love it. Hack for ... Hack for X. In some markets, that may even be an interesting one. Cheap solution. You know what another one would be? Fast solution. So you can use all of these forbidden. I love that, Riley. I love the way you're thinking. Forbidden solution. Worth a shot. Unlawful. No, let's not get crazy here. Homemade. A couple of you came up with homemade. That's also, depending on your market, that might be a very good phrase. But do you see what we're doing here? Do you see why all of a sudden we've gone from one? Typically, when people are looking for a solution to a market, they tend to look for one solution, right? And then when you've only got one solution, then that's no fun. You have no choices, right? Whereas if we look for at least a minimum of 3 different solutions, even though there's one, there could well be one which is super, super duper obvious. Let me think of one. Tuning a guitar. Okay, so there is a way of tuning the guitar which has been handed down from generation to generation of guitar players, but it's not the only way to tune a guitar, right? So you use your different, G string, 5th string, blah, 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 blah. You can do it that way, but you can also tune with harmonics, right? But you can also use electronic tuners, or you could use apps, or you can use little tuning robots, right? All of these different things are available. You can tuning by ear, potentially, right? But but if you had a hack for tuning by ear, all of a sudden, there's one obvious way that every single guitar player gets taught to tune their guitar. But the reality is there's probably, now I think about it, there's probably dozens of different ways to tune a guitar. And sometimes the most non-obvious ways are the most fun. They're the thing that makes you go, wow, or no, are you serious? I didn't know if you used vinegar and you put a rusty knife into vinegar for 24 hours, you can literally just rub off all the rust. It's fantastic, right? All of these things are available to you, right? So I want you to spend 25 minutes exploring the wild side of the solutions. So, and again, don't forget that any good links, and I think Google and YouTube are the place to look. There are probably alternative places to look for these things. I think I saw somebody say Reddit. I want you to use Google and YouTube, but if you want to do extra work, well, then places like Reddit are potentially not a bad place for searching for solutions as well. But they'll often come up in Google. Here's the thing. You don't have to look in Reddit, because often Google will use a Reddit post as a solution, right? So that's how we do that, okay? But I also want you to record any good content, right? Record links of any good content. So by the end of day 3, I want you to be at the point where you've got more. And let's do this in a different color. At least 3 solutions. All right. So that's our day 3, at least 3. Then for day 4, we're going to have a look at our at least 3 solutions. We're going to draw a little matrix. And we're going to go fast. We're going to go cheap. Easy. And unusual. So on day 4, we're going to set a timer for 25 minutes, and we're going to take our solutions, and there should be at least 3 by day 4. I want you to have had at least 3. You can have more, right? Don't have less. Have at least 3, right? So that's very, very, very important. All right. So we've got our solutions, and we're going to then create a little matrix. Matrices are great to help you decide on something to pick when we've got multiple criteria. So I just want you to, so if you've got, you can award how many ever points based on how many there are. So if you've got 3, you get to award a 3, 2, 1. All right. So 3, 2, 1. All right. If you've got 3, if you've got 4, you'd award 4, 3, 2, 1 points. So I've got 3 solutions here. Blur, blur, blur. Okay. And I'm going to give 3 points to the fastest possible solution. Okay. So this one is the fastest. This one is the second fastest. And this one actually takes a long time. So I'm going to give the fast on the fast score 3, 2, and 1. Then on the cheapness score, how much does this cost? And it may be that all of them are free, but when you think about cheap, also, we already have calculated in for time, right? So if they're all cheap, that's fine, but is one more cheap than the other? Okay. So just allocate, for this one is the cheapest. This one is the most expensive, and this one's in the middle. Now, in terms of the easiest, what's the easiest, most simple solution? So in this case, this one is the easy one. That one is the least easy, and this one's in the middle. And unusual. So if it's the super obvious, this one here is the super obvious. So I want to remember I'm ranking for most unusual. So super obvious gets 1. This one is really unusual. It's pretty rare. And this one is in the middle, right? So we can rank up a score 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this one's 7. This one's 10. And this one's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I want you to do a little matrix just like this. And if you've got questions, please pop them in the chat box and I'll happily answer them. We're going to select one of these just based on our matrix of fast, cheap, easy, and unusual. So for me, the winner is this one. Okay, so that's the easy one. Then on day 5, on day 5, we are going to gather for a special live show. Because I want to show you in real time what we do with our solution that we have found based on our matrix. Now, this show will be on at 8 p.m. Thursday night. There. 8 p.m. Thursday night. Okay, so we'll gather live. You need to have your solution based on our matrix decision maker. And then we will, at 8 p.m. on Thursday night, I'm going to show you live our next step that we're going to do with that. So there we have it. That is our week, right, planned out in the Solve for X week. And of course, I'll record it for those of you who are in the UK. I know you get a bit of a shaft when I do things at this time, but there we go. since my market is dog toys, am I finding articles about dog toys or actual toys? Dog toys. Absolutely. Well, based on solutions to the problems, the number one pain point of that. Okay, so let's just sum up just to make sure we've got this. So today, during the live exercise, we came up with, we sorted all of our pains, gains, and jobs to be done. We came up with the number one pain, the number one gain, the number one job to be done. Then we selected the number one pain. And our goal this week is to figure out the 3 different solutions. Okay, so we need to find at least 3 different solutions to that particular pain. And we talked about how in a lot of markets, people will tell you there's only one obvious solution. And I'm telling you, in every market with every pain known to man, we're going to be able to show that. And if you go over the day one matrix one more time, just watch the replay. It'll be there on the replay. Day 2, 25 minutes, and we're going to be researching obvious solutions. So we're just going to go to Google and we're going to type in solution to XXX, XXX being your number one pain. And then we're going to go to YouTube. We're going to get the solution to XXX. We're going to capture the links to any of these solutions using whatever tool you use. I use Drafts is the thing that I use. You can also use Pocket is another app that I use because I tend to be on a computer when I'm doing it. Well, actually on a handheld device when I'm doing this sort of research. That is day 2. Day 3, we're looking for the unconventional solutions. We're looking for the alternatives, the secrets, the unusuals, the hacks, the fast, the forbidden, not spelt like that, the homemade, the cheap solutions to all of to your pain, your number one pain point. Okay. We're going to record the links of any good content. And by the end of day 3, we need at least 3 solutions. You can have more. More's great, but we're going to have at least 3 solutions. Then on day 4, we're going to set the timer for 25 minutes and we're going to draw a little matrix decision table. So we're going to have in our first column, we're going to have all of our different solutions. I've got 3 here. And then we're going to rank each of them depending on these 4 criteria: fast, cheap, easy, and unusual, right? How is it if it's the most obvious solution, that would rate the least, right? That would give you the least number of points. The more unusual the solution, the higher the points it gets. Okay. We're going to add those, mate. We're going to award those points. And then we're going to look at the number one point winner. And with the number one point winner, we're going into day 5. And then day 5, this coming Thursday evening, US Eastern time, that's 8 p.m. Thursday night, USA Eastern. Let's write that in. Oh, right. USA Eastern time. That is 10 a.m. Australian time. We will be going through the next step in Solve for X. Okay, so this is, I can't wait for you to do this week. As always, each day, I would love to give I'd love you to give your feedback in the challenge group, because I think people find that really, really helpful and really useful. And if you've got any questions, also feel free to add them there as well. All right, with that, thank you very much, everybody. Awesome sesh today. Can't wait for you to go through this. I think this is a very, very interesting week, this one. And I think you're going to surprise yourselves a heck of a lot. As always, I'd love you to like. If you found today's session useful, please hit that like button. Or the thumbs up, I should say. And feel free to share. Make sure you subscribe. Do all of that sort of stuff. And I'll see you on Thursday night for another live session at 8 p.m. And of course, I'll pop in, as I always do, on the Facebook group as well. And thank you very much to the contributors today. Your donations are fantastic, and I will have the subway in your honor. So very, very appreciated. All right. Thanks, gang. Have fun. Get to work. We'll see you all later.